Well, what's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 3 of the Money Mastery series from teachingmoneymastery.com, the show where we interview young people that are doing awesome things in their businesses or their careers and find out from them how they got to where they are, what motivates them, and what are their general thoughts about money and success. I'm Andre Alamina, your host.
I'm your co-host, Quatrin, and today we have a very special guest, my good friend, Tyler DeCoutzy. He's the managing partner of DRR USA. And on top of that, he's a career pilot. So, Tyler, glad to have you on our show, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. My buddy Quatrin asked me to be on here. We've known each other since high school. We've watched each other grow, help each other develop as people, and help each other develop as business owners as well. So I appreciate the relationship, Qua.
Absolutely, man. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, so speaking about development, why don't you start by telling us more about your background and who you were before you started running these businesses and what got you into them in the first place?
So my background in high school, I was kind of just plain old, high school student. I clocked in, clocked out like everybody else. I was just gearing up for my the world of business, really. During college, I realized when I volunteered a lot, I have over 3,500 volunteer hours with Colleges Against Cancer, Relay for Life, things along those lines. The first year, I took the Relay for Life at Bowling Green from 27,000 to 280,000 as a direct response to my involvement. And after I did that, I said, wait a second, I kind of pivoted my mindset. I said, I could do that with real companies, with real revenue, and start generating my wealth that way as well.
Nice. So when you were a part of that program, you thought, okay, I'm good at this. Like, I'm good at being a part of teams where you're managing an operation and trying to make decisions to help create more value for that thing. So what made you decide to work with your dad with DRR Racing?
So right when I graduated college, I had the opportunity to be a career pilot immediately. I thought it was a great opportunity, but I also saw an opportunity here to help generate my wealth as generational wealth rather than just my personal income. As a career pilot, you make a good amount of money, but the economy shows that at any day, any time, it can be shut off like a light switch.
Yeah, especially now.
Exactly. So if I focused on one thing and just solely dedicated myself to that, I wouldn't have a job right now. So for me, having one stream of income just wasn't an option.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important lesson too, that people who own businesses, you eat what you kill. I mean, you are responsible for your income every month. You don't collect a paycheck. There's no one who has control over your ability to support yourself and in the future your family. So being able to have ownership of a business is always something that's valuable, whether you're doing that on the side or that's your main source of income.
Right, and having a job creates a false sense of security because the CEO of that company could just as easily fail as you could.
Right.
So if you rely on somebody else to give you a job, you're going to have no job in the future. You have to create the job that you want,
right,
and then you'll always have a job.
Cool.
Yeah, let's start with the first company. So DRR USA. Now this is the ATV company. Can you talk to us about how you got started with that and what were you responsible for its growth?
Yep. So DRR USA, we started 20 years ago. We started manufacturing youth racing ATVs. We're #1 in the nation for national championships. Just within 6 to 8 months, we've developed a fully electric ATV. Our market is Border Patrol, National Guard, police units, national parks, thing along those lines, because the nature experience is incredible. The silence is incredible. So you have a lot more stealth capabilities, stealth missions, stuff like that. And when I saw my father actually engineer the first electric ATV, I said to myself, there's a real opportunity here. And I said I could either go the easy route, the safe route, be a career pilot, which turns out isn't that safe,
right,
or I could make something of myself, give my family a name and a legacy, and that's what I chose to do.
So you're pretty involved with DRR Racing right now. I mean, from what you told us, you're almost basically running it.
So anything from procurement to manufacturing, assembling physically, to shipping, to cold calling, to making my own emails, everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Do you think it comes naturally to you, being able to take on these roles in a business, or did you have to get a lot of training from your dad and people around you to be able to do these things?
So when I started, I came to the warehouse when I was 6 years old, and every single day my dad would say, okay, pick up the broom and start sweeping. I have to have a clean workplace in order to work efficiently. I said,
right,
okay. So I started sweeping, I cleaned, and every day I'd have to come and I'd have to sweep the same floor. I'd have to do the same exact things. I said, I want more. And my father told me, well, in this life, you're always going to want more, and if you choose to better yourself in education and discipline, you can increase your responsibilities. And what I did was I learned how to become a mechanic at the age of 12. And from 12 to 18 in high school, I was a self-employed mechanic.
Nice.
And that's how I got business-oriented with finances, finding customers, what the work it took in order to run the business, because no one else was helping me. And just from there, when I went to Relay for Life, I realized how successful I could be.
Right.
And then I just had a pivot in mindsets overnight and said, hey, I want to do something, I want to be somewhere. And the biggest trait I can attribute that to would definitely be my father teaching me. But the number one thing is I'm not afraid to dream. And if you're not afraid to dream, no matter what people tell you, they're going to tell you your whole life, it's, hey, maybe you should have more realistic goals. Hey, maybe you should focus on things that other people are worried about, just to have a safe career. You want to be a certain way and fit a certain aspect and be a certain way. And for me, I just can't do it.
Right.
And I just realized that if I have this voice in my head, that it's my own voice, of course, but I have this voice in my head that always wants more and always wants me as a person to be better. And so that trait, I actually found out later in life that not everybody has that voice in their head saying, I want more, I want to do better every single day from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. So it's a blessing that I actually have that.
Yeah, the aspirational lever.
Yeah, I guess that's something I inherited, I guess, but mostly I would say I'm not afraid to dream.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, they say there's two real levers that drive people to do greater things in their lives and take an ordinary safe path. It's either desperation, where your back's against the wall, and if you don't do that, you're just going to sink, or it's aspiration. And that's clearly what it is for you, that you just have a vision for what you want your life to be, what you want to accomplish, and you live your life every day motivated towards achieving that.
Right. Well, if you look yourself in the mirror at the end of every day, and you look yourself in the eyes, you tell yourself, you're the only person that holds you accountable. You're the only person that knows what's going on in your head, and you're the only person that knows what you can achieve. Yeah. And if you look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day, and you're not satisfied with your performance of that day, you always have the next day. And the goal is just to be a little bit better than the day before. And over time, it just works itself out with, the language of the world and God. I personally believe in God. And I think that it's just the language of the universe. If you want something, you try for it, you have good intentions, it's going to work out, almost always.
And that's part of that internal accountability that you talked about. And some people find it hard to have that strength to, look back at themselves and say, I got to do this. So, you could always have a buddy or a friend where you have that external accountability, where you guys hold each other accountable for things that you guys want to succeed in. So that's awesome. But I kind of wanted to talk about more technical things about DRR USA. So you said you created the first e-ATV. So why haven't your competitors, made the electric ATV yet?
So electric comes with a lot of challenges. When you have an ATV, they expect it to be able to go through mud, water. They expect it to run in any kind of temperature, cold and hot. Historically, even Tesla has problems with keeping battery longevity in cold weather. We do have internal thermal capacity, or internal thermal workings, where we can have the batteries actually generate its own heat, so potentially won't lose as much battery life. But just with the different struggles, they haven't quite been able to master it. But as a small company, we can pivot our manufacturing so quick compared to them, because they already purchased the molds ahead of time. They have their 2021 plastics ready to go. They're just waiting to switch, usually. And we're not big enough to the point where we can do that. But being able to pivot and being able to change our design overnight and staying up till 2 or 3 in the morning to make sure it works is not something a regular 9-to-5 engineer would do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I consulted this company. They're over in Worcester, but they're like are you familiar with Slack or Teams? So they're like collaboration software that large companies use to help their employees communicate better. But they were incredibly small. I mean, they're competing with Microsoft and Slack, and companies that are orders of magnitude larger than they are. But what I presented to them was the fact that because you're small, you can make those pivots very quickly. You could take customer feedback and respond to it in a way that Microsoft just can't. Right. Like when you purchase Microsoft Office, Bill Gates or Satya Nadella doesn't call you and say, hey, how do you like Microsoft Office? What more can we do to make this better for you? They can't do that. But when you're smaller and you have that nimbleness, you can take in customer feedback and respond to it in ways that bigger companies can't. Yep. So for anyone starting a small business out there, if you're taking on a big player, either you're working at a startup or whatever it is, don't be afraid to use your small size as an advantage. It's not a weakness. If you're smart about it, like what Tyler explained of his business, you can actually capture and create more value for your customers by just being more nimble and more responsive. So that's a great nugget of advice for our listeners too. What personal traits do you think you have that make you really adept at running these businesses? What is it about you personally, or skills you've acquired along the way that you think have really helped you be efficient at this?
So, touching on that volunteering part, I also was an orientation leader at Bowling Green State. I also was an orientation leader in high school. And I actually was asked to be president of Colleges Against Cancer, which is a national program, costs a couple hundred colleges. And through development of character as a person over my journey throughout my life, whether it's high school volunteering, college volunteering, and then just assuming that leadership position, knowing and having the confidence that you can lead teams of over 50 from prior experience, giving presentations to over 200 plus people while my legs are shaking, felt like my voice was going to crack the whole time, so getting yourself uncomfortable and being able to develop as a person from that mostly led to my success.
And it's that fear of, not being comfortable is what stops people from reaching their full potential, which is so crucial.
I agree. And the fear is so unrealistic, because if you have fear of the unknown and you're going to calculate every single possible problem that could arise, I hate to break it to those people, but usually the biggest problem you don't foresee. So for example, I had to put up all the racking in this entire warehouse by my own hand. I thought that the biggest challenge I was going to have was building the racking. Well, actually during the racking build, I broke my thumb, and as a result of that, carrying the 55-pound beams, I actually gave myself a hernia. And now with COVID, I actually haven't been able to have surgery the last 4 months. So it actually hindered my ability to ship, pack, manufacture, things like that. So your biggest problem isn't necessarily, they can't be calculated.
You can't predict it.
You can't calculate it, So the fear is actually irrational.
Yeah. Before we get into some other questions, just tell us more about the businesses. How much are you guys doing every year in revenue? And since you got involved, what's been the growth for your business, the tire company, that for the race minutes that you share with your dad?
Yep. So starting with the tire company, last year we did about 250K. Based on my cold calling, email, hard mail, stuff like that, we're projected about 1.8 this year.
Beautiful.
COVID, of course, interfering with that a little bit. And then DRR, last year we did about 1.2. And in my opinion, I could probably get it up all the way up to 3.2 by the end of the year, just by the end of the year on new sales.
Right.
So
that's awesome. So what do you think have been the biggest obstacles for you so far? I mean, personal life, professional life, working with your dad, working on your business. What has been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome?
Biggest challenge for me would probably be communication. I see things a certain way. I believe it should be a certain way. And when people don't see that vision, I have a hard time understanding how they don't see that vision or why they wouldn't want to work towards that vision.
Right.
But it took me time and maturity to realize that everybody doesn't have the same perspective and everybody takes a different look at it, which is actually more helpful, because sometimes I'm so aggressive and so stern on the way I look at things that sometimes I don't look at all the factors. And when I ask my team, hey, what's your opinion on this? They give me ideas that I would have never thought about.
Right.
Awesome.
Anything more you want to add, Kwa?
That's awesome, dude, that you mentioned that your team helps you a lot, because there's this one saying that if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you got to bring others along with you. And would you say that's a fair statement for how you got to where you are right now and where you want to go?
I agree completely. Also, I benefit a lot from mentors. For example, I've looked at Kwa as a mentor for probably 2 or 3 years now. He inspired me with his West Park properties, also with Teaching Money Mastery, of course. And just to see your friends and the people around you succeed and develop as people, it helps you develop as a person. Absolutely. And because of that, I actually thank Kwa, and that's why we have such a great relationship. And of course, I agreed to do this,
Yeah, that's an important thing too, guys. Always surround yourself with people who are at least of a similar mindset with what they want to achieve. If you are someone who wants to go out and do big things, you want to start a business, you want to grow progressively and aggressively in your career, you're going to have to be around people that have similar aspirations. You can't be around people that want to sit around and play Fortnite all day. I mean, you have to be around people who are aspirational the way you're aspirational to really achieve those goals. That's just something that I believe. I don't know what you think about that. Who you surround yourself with is a big part of who you become.
And just to touch on that, a big thing is a lot of our generation is concerned with what other people are doing. I don't have any social media. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Snap. I do have Snapchat. It's the one social media I have. But just the distraction and thinking about other people's material goods and what they're doing is a huge miss. Huge miss, because you should be inspired by the things that are around you. And if you're discouraged by viewing other people's things, then you should definitely get off that kind of social media.
Yeah, I actually did some research on that particular topic a few months ago from an article I wrote, but I was looking at a chart of average household wealth in the United States. And if you were to ask people what decade they think is the happiest generation in America, what do you think that is?
The happiest?
Yeah.
Just because the way you said it, probably the Great Depression.
Not the Depression, but
yeah, definitely not the happiest,
No.
but not the time where wealth is most prosperous.
Exactly, yeah, you get the idea. It was the 1950s, right? They that's seen as a happy generation because the economy was great. People were getting jobs. Manufacturing was starting to expand in the U.S. But if you look at average household wealth between now and then, it's doubled since the 1950s, even if you account for inflation.
Oh, okay.
But I don't feel like people are twice as happy.
No.
So it's not necessarily money that's been the driving force of our decline in overall happiness, but it's because we anchor off of these extreme versions of what life should be. We anchor off of the Kardashians and all these 16-year-olds on YouTube that are driving around in G-Wagons. That's what we aspire to and anchor off of instead of focusing on what's in front of us now. You know, just focus on your business that you're starting, your career, your school, whatever it is that's going to be the driving force towards the life you want to live. If you focus on that and not on everyone else and what they have, you're going to have a much better time reaching your goals than if you're constantly worried about what Owen's doing or what Qua's doing or what Andre's doing. Just focus on Tyler and what he's got going on.
Right, and another thing about happiness for me, if you work a job and you make good money, I still don't think that you'll most likely be happy. In my opinion, I get my happiness from the ability to dream.
Right.
And seeing those dreams come to fruition through hard work brings me happiness because I know that I manifested that myself.
Right.
And nobody can take that away from me.
Right.
And so that's what brings me happiness rather than even seeing, I like seeing other people aspire, but it's very inspirational to see other people aspire. But personally, like I said, looking yourself in the mirror, knowing that you created this for yourself and knowing that your family, you can take care of your family if something were to happen is just the biggest driving factor in my why personally.
Right.
So
Yeah, but I mean, the one caveat I would give is that there is risk of starting a business, right? So, you know, if you're someone that if you need to care for elderly parents or you need to have support a family right away, I mean, it's harder to be aspirational then because the worst case scenario is pretty bad. You know, like for us right now, we're guys in our 20s that don't have a lot of responsibility. You know, this is the time where we can take those risks. Because, you know, if we fail, you know, we're out a few $1,000s in an investment maybe or something like that. It's not the end of the world. But as you go throughout your life, that ability to be aspirational starts to decline. So now is a time for people when you're young to really push for those goals, push for those dreams like Tyler talked about, because you're not going to have a time where it's going to be easier to do that. Nope. When you're 40, it's not going to be easier to quit your job and start a business than when you're 24, 25, 26 years old, or 21 years old for that matter. So just keep that in mind as you guys go through now. Don't wait to pursue those dreams. Now is really the time to start doing it.
And also, you don't get a special feeling. You don't wake up one day and, hey, I have the idea for a multi-million-dollar company. You can do that. It's not very common. No. But if you take your time to calculate exactly how you're going to go about it and just slowly go after and hack away every single day, slightly better than the day before, that is how you achieve success.
Beautiful. I love that.
Some days you don't feel like you make progress at all.
No, not at all. And you feel terrible. You feel like you got nothing done, things like that. But it's all just part of the game because even if you clocked in 9 to 5, you're going to feel terrible anyways. So you're not going to feel great every single day. So it's the same exact situation, whether you feel great, whether you feel sad, happy, you got this and that going on. It just comes down to being able to perform, and it comes down to not being deterred in any way, shape, or form.
What would you tell someone that wants to start a similar manufacturing business or something similar along your lines of work?
For manufacturing in the United States, you have to be certified. I'd recommend seeking legal advice first. You have to submit a business plan to the federal government, an action plan, I should say. And they have to approve it before you can legally manufacture and sell ATVs in the United States. So work on that action plan, get a lawyer, file the proper paperwork, and you're good to go.
So speed round, you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's do our speed round. What do you do? What kind of activities are you taking on during this quarantine?
A whole lot of nothing. No, I've been reading. I wish I could exercise right now. Like I said, I'm hurt. But exercising is an important part of your mental clarity. So I think it's very important to exercise, eat healthy, do the little things that you've always wanted to do. So if you've always wanted to go to your local park, local mountain, hike it, stuff like that. I've been doing a lot of hiking, a lot of reading, a lot of soul searching, which, you know, I think it's important because throughout your life, your inspiration is going to change, whether daily, monthly, yearly, every 10 years it changes your why. So I think it's always important to seek out new inspiration, and I do that with the things around me. So I really enjoy nature, I really enjoy reading, just that one line that will inspire me for the next year, stuff like that.
What kind of books are you reading right now?
The most recent book I just read is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the best books I've ever read my entire life. I agree with the narrative completely about omens and the language of the universe showing you and giving you intuition to do certain things for a reason. And I firmly believe that, and that book pretty much goes along those lines. I also, Think and Grow Rich is just a classic of all time.
Absolutely.
10X by Grant Cardone really opened my eyes up to cold calling, production, and mass quantity and numbers, because really when you cold call and email, it's just a percentage, it's just a numbers game. Yeah, so let's just say you have a 10% closing rate. If you call 10 people, you make one deal. You call 100 people, you make 10 deals. So.
What are you most looking forward to once we're out of quarantine and hopefully we're beyond all this COVID-19 stress?
I'm looking forward to getting surgery, feeling healthy,
Yeah.
Having a sense of normalcy, being able to go to the gym, being able to hang out with my friends, stuff like that. I'm a people's person. When I'm around good energy, good friends, stuff like that, it's just really inspiring. So I like to be around people. Volunteering, I can't do anything along those lines for now. Also, my career as an aviator is on hold. So there's a lot of things I can't wait for.
So any last words for our audience before we sign out?
My last words would be just believe in yourself, don't be afraid to dream big, and don't let anybody get in your way.
Awesome. Well, that was our show for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Thank you.